It's the Rail Budget today, and we are here, of course, with the man of the hour, the Rail Minister, Pawan Kumar Bansal. So thank you so much for talking to us. Let me start by asking you, because there are a lot of nuts and bolts and nitty-gritties that this budget has, but the critics actually say that the budget document lacks really vision. What would you like to say in terms of, really a vision of the road ahead, what the year is going to look like, or maybe even a turnaround in 5 years for the railways? There's no vision. What would you like to say to your critics?
Don't know really how the analysts come to this conclusion that there is no vision. In fact, for the first time, I don't claim to be achieving something very big, but for the first time rather, I think we put it across to the people that if to maintain the momentum of railways, to ensure that the railways retain its sustainability as such and are able to provide services to the people as expected by them, we have to be realistic and practical in our approach. That is, people must pay for what they get. And it's in that direction that I feel, well, if we are able to put that system in place, where if it is cleared finally by the parliament, that fuel adjustment component, which of course was rolled back last time, I have introduced that again this time. If it is cleared in the parliament, that will be a big step in that direction, because it will be a dynamic thing as such, and that mechanism with the increase and the decrease in the cost of fuel will move accordingly. That's a big thing, I feel. But that's not the only thing that a vision will talk of. We have to think, those things have been talked of earlier. That is the dedicated freight corridor. We've moved in that direction. We have prioritized the projects for the first time. Projects have been prioritized and committed funding will be available to them. These are the things which we are now doing. I have announced some projects this time also, subject to the clearances by the Planning Commission and other clearances. That's different. But we will prioritize the projects. That is a new thing which we have provided for, that henceforth we must not keep adding to the shelf, but if we keep adding to the shelf, we must also see that the projects which have registered substantial progress, physical progress in the past, must be taken up first.
Very interesting points you're making, and I'm going to pick on this one thing that you said, that are we looking at, as in airports, we have world-class airports now, even roads, the PPP model has worked in quite a good way. Are we now looking at a place where passengers, as consumers and other infrastructure, are going to have to pay for what they've been using? So, for so long where cross-subsidization has happened as, compared to passengers versus freight that was going on, are you telling us that the vision ahead for the railways is that passengers now will have to pay, at least that cross-subsidization will have to stop?
Which is there, which has been in place for many years, is a fate now comply as such. That is what has to be there. You can't roll back that. I don't intend to do that. That's a long, the journey ahead of us is a long and winding one as such. That is where, in future, we have to see. According to the need, according to the services that you provide to them, you have to make those increases, whether those are fare or freight, but that is not today.
Right.
That is what I'm saying for the future. Right. Presently, what we have done today is all that we have done.
Very quickly, of course, for fuel adjustment, we saw it that you've passed it on to freight. Let me quickly come to passengers. There is, of course, there's a draft cabinet note at the moment, which is under interministerial discussion. How soon are we going to look at that note going to the cabinet, which will consider, for the Rail Tariff Authority?
You see, we prepared it here, as you are aware of it. It's now under interministerial discussion. When we receive comments from different ministries, then we have to address those. After that, incorporating those, the note is accordingly modified and sent to the cabinet. Since it will entail certain amendments to the law also, the cabinet will clear those, then it will go to the parliament. The parliament will pass this. It takes time. Lawmaking is a protracted process in our country. And then when finally it is cleared by the parliament, it becomes the law.
Would you say at least that, in your term as a rail minister, you will see this through?
I will try to push it through.
It will be one of the priorities.
No, for me it is. For me it will be. But I won't know as to finally how it fares in the parliament.
All right. We've seen earlier, pre-independence, we've seen, of course, post-independence, in fact, we've seen that, railways used to carry the maximum amount of freight. It used to generate a lot of revenue. But slowly, railways has ceded ground to road transport. Is there anything in your vision in the next coming years where this can be brought back?
Well, it's come down perhaps from 80 to 36 over the years. That's true. But the volume of work has increased. The volume of freight has increased tremendously. And All that I can say is, well, we have to work in that direction, that this continues as it is in the case of passengers. It also must be the most preferred mode of transport for the goods also. I mean, that's what I would like to say.
We also spoke to Vinay Mittal, chairman of the Railway Board. He said that a cabinet note has been moved to institute a real tariff authority. Listen in.
What we have moved is a cabinet note for interministerial consultation for setting up a rail tariff authority, which will look into the fares and freights. I mean, it will be a composite authority, and if finally gets approved, it will be looking into the fares and freights on a periodic basis of the Indian Railways. We have introduced a fuel adjustment component for both freights and fares. And what we have said is that in case there's a hike in the fuel rates and the electricity charges for traction, then we would pass it through. We would not be able to absorb it anymore.
Well, joining us now from Delhi is Abhijit Niyogi, and Shubham Batra is also joining us. Colleagues, Abhijit, coming to you first. How are you looking at this budget today? That announcement has given the impression that the rail authority they're finally moving to align tariffs to market realities.
Well, the rail budget was presented earlier today by Pawan Bansal, the first time a Congress minister actually presented the budget in 17 years. And he actually made some quite bold moves, one has to say, on the fare front, which would cushion to some extent rail financials. What he's done, he's actually linked the rise in fuel prices to freight tariffs. So every time there is a fuel kind of increase, that would have a pass-through on freight rates, and this is something which is actually a bold move. It does kind of cushion the railways from any increase in fuel prices. We also do understand from sources that the tariff regulators in the works, it would go to the cabinet soon, and once that's approved, there could be a biannual rise in passenger fares, because again, fuel prices might be linked to passenger fares. So this move to link it to passenger fares is coming. It's not something that's not on the radar, but perhaps it's going to come after the budget. So on the fare front, it does something quite bold to cushion revenue, the revenue or the financial position of the railways. But many skeptics have said that what this particular budget lacks is a broad vision. He could have done so many things on the land monetization bit, on the PPP bid, but of course he was constrained for finances. Perhaps he could have had a vision, he could have laid out a roadmap to execute the vision where railways is headed. He could have talked or dwelt at length on corporatization of the railway, the entire railway structure. All that is missing, but again, another group says that, well, this is a short-term issue, and the first priority of Mr. Bansal was to fix rail finances, which he's tried to address in this particular budget. Of course, the jury is out on that one.
Thanks, Abhijit. Shubham, coming to you, take us through the railway finances and the rationale behind the freight announcements as well.
While there may be a fair amount of outcry from companies such as Coal India and the ones that produce your iron ore, pig iron or cement companies, this is definitely sound economics. From a railways point of view, the finances of railways are definitely going to benefit the ones that have been in shambles for such a long time. In fact, the linkage between fuel prices and freight tariffs are going to have a direct impact on food and primary articles inflation. So for example, your commodities such as grains and pulses, the cement, the iron or steel that are mainly used for freight purposes and are used more frequently will have a direct impact. However, the headline inflation will not really see a jump because your core inflation still remains low. However, in another development, sources have told Bloomberg India that there will be a tariff regulator to really monitor the fuel linkage with the freight tariffs. In fact, going ahead, there will be a draft cabinet note that will be floated to take feedback from all stakeholders on how really will this pan out or will this function. We could also see the passenger tariffs being linked to the fuel price fluctuation. So definitely fair amount of outcry from companies, but definitely good economics from railway finances point of view.
All right, Shubham, and also we had a comment coming in from the Commissioner of Railways, Vijaya Kant. Mehek, in fact, caught up with her, and she began by asking her on the roadmap for increasing revenues for the railways. This is what she said.
If you recall, in January, we rationalized the fares. So that would fetch us about 6,600 crores. Then we have the normal incremental growth. So that would be around 5.2%. So that is how we have pegged our passenger earnings at about 42,000 crores this year. And regards freight, we have not increased the freight tariffs. We are only neutralizing the impact of diesel and electricity charges.
Let's take a quick break. Coming up.